to another monthly live KWL Live Q&A. Thanks everyone for joining us. So excited to have Jessica S. Taylor today chatting. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Let us know, everyone, where you're coming in from in the chat. I give my unasked for Toronto weather update. It's very rainy here in Toronto at the moment, but we're not letting it bring us down because the Blue Jays are on track to make some wins. I dare not say they will win it all because I'll be the reason that they don't, but the baseball is going very, very well. So yeah, we don't care that it's raining, but I hope everyone is getting all ready and spooky wherever you guys are. It's that time of year, everyone's favorite. I know Vanessa in the chat is a spooky season fanatic. Jessica, maybe you too.
I love all the spooky.
Nice. So yeah, if you have questions in the chat, drop them in throughout and I'll try and get to them. But let's kick it off. So I'm going to just read your bio if that's cool, Jessica. So Jessica's a mythology enthusiast and author of dark fantasy romance. As a child, Jessica all but lived in her local library, devouring whatever books she could get her hands on, but that wasn't enough, so she began writing her own. Jessica was born and raised in Kentucky, but is currently residing in Connecticut with her husband and cat, Nebula. And I want to start off with, we've already talked a little bit about our pets before we hit live here. My dog, when I got him from a rescue, was named Nebula.
That's so awesome.
So I was like, what a connection. I didn't keep it because they called him Nebby and it didn't really stick.
That's what we call her.
Oh, so I switched it to Ned because I thought it would be close enough, and that has just stuck. But it's very, very funny that you have a cat called Nebula as well.
Well, we actually rescued her too, and she came with that name. So that's hilarious.
Yeah. And when I took him to the dog park for the very first time, the first dog friend he made was named Nova. And I was like, it's all intertwining. But
I love it.
Anyways, let's not talk about pets for an entire hour, though I could.
We could, though.
But thanks for joining us. And for anyone that's not familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I'd love to learn about how your writing career began.
Yes. So I'm Jessica. So I've been publishing since 2020. Been writing a lot longer than that. It's always so corny when I say it, but like I'm one of those people that's like, I've always known I want to be a writer kind of thing. But it's also true because I have a twin sister and we always just like told each other stories all the time. When we went to the library a lot, as you said in my bio, and we had a really small local library. So like we ran out of options very quickly. So we kind of just started telling each other stories, and I took a liking to it and started writing my own versus just telling them to my sister, and kind of went from there. I've written a couple books before I decided to start publishing. Never really like considered publishing as a path. It was always just, I'm just writing for fun. It's fun. And then got on Bookstagram during the start of the pandemic and was like, oh, I could do this myself, which actually is perfect because when I started researching all of my like options for what I could do, I originally researched trad publishing and was like, maybe not. And then I found all the information about self-publishing and was like, oh, this is perfect because I am a control freak, perfectionist, and I change my mind a lot and I'm super impatient. So all of that was perfect for indie pub versus traditionally published. So kind of got started with that in 2020. And then now here we are.
Nice. So that's so interesting that you came to it through Bookstagram, which I don't know if I've heard of before, and like that specific example. And I know it can be really hard to like, if you Google like how to publish or use any of your preferred search engines, or like how to get your book into readers' hands, it's overwhelming the amount of results that are there. So I wonder if like you can remember what popped out at you or how you found kind of trusted resources when you were beginning to do the research.
Yeah, so a lot of it came from honestly just asking dumb questions, which were probably dumb to the authors I was asking them of, but not dumb if you don't know what you don't know at that point. So I was very fortunate to have my questions answered by some indie pub authors, specifically Scarlett St. Clair took pity on me and answered a lot of my early questions. And then eventually I found, I'm very much a person who likes, if there's a resource book, I will get it and like annotate it. I'm
Mm.
pretty much, I have to write things down to learn it for myself. And so I found the Wide for the Win book and then a Facebook group. And I hate Facebook, first of all. But I was like, okay, let me just kind of poke around through here. And then most of my stuff got me to at least asking the right questions, and then I could narrow down my research more.
Nice, nice. It's interesting to learn your entry into this world. And you're known for writing like dark fantasy romance. So was this always what you wanted to start writing? And what drew you to this genre?
I think I'll answer the last question first. So, what drew me to this genre is this is what I read all the time. So, a lot of my book recommendations and what I was reading as a kid was from my grandmother. And she read pretty much dark fantasy exclusively and fantasy romance exclusively and paranormal romance. So kind of that was what we started on. So I never even really considered anything else when I was writing my stories. They were always like that. I don't think it was ever really a conscious decision on my part that that was what I was going to write, because that was all I really knew. So yeah, as far as like beyond that, that's what I like reading. So that was where I kind of got into the Bookstagram world. And like, I knew self-publishing existed, but I didn't really until then knew how widespread it was and like how many other places there were other than Amazon to really take that career path as a career. Like I said, I'd always written, and even if I stopped publishing, I'll always write. But the idea that I could publish it was something that I had never heard really discussed all that much.
That must have been a pleasant surprise if you were like, I'm a fan of dark fantasy romance, love it, it's all I write. And then also learning that like it is probably one of the most popular like indie genres too, right? That you're like,
Yes,
I can just do it myself.
yes, it was really fun to learn, and part of the big reason that I think Bookstagram really helped me figure out that this is what I wanted to do was just seeing how kind all the authors were. They were all so willing to answer my questions, and they were all so encouraging, and it was just fantastic, a fantastic experience. And that's something that I love about the indie community too, is like there's not competition for the most part. It's all like, if you like my book, you're going to like someone else's, because especially on Bookstagram, the readers are voracious. They will read anything and everything they can get their hands on for good reason too. Like, so it's been really fulfilling to be able to have that community and find that community so early on in my publishing career. So really grateful for how that all turned out.
Yeah, I think it's like it's so interesting that you've kind of come from that way. But one of my favorite things about working in this community as well is like how collaborative everyone is. And like there's definitely some aspects of competition, but for the most part, people are willing to share like, hey, did you try this? Because I did it and it was great. Or actually I tried that and it didn't work for me, but it worked for so and so. And it's a really uplifting community where people are just trying to really build each other up and like I think it shows that there's plenty of readers in the world as well.
Absolutely. I definitely think it's one of those things where like it's so individualistic that we can support each other that way and not have any issues with like really competition, because even if we do the exact same thing, just by nature of how it works, it's going to be different.
Mhm.
It's going to work out differently. So I think that's really a cool part of it too.
Nice. So I want to talk a little bit about like your approach to like the craft of writing. So you said that you've always been a writer. Have you always, your first book release, was that the one that you were working on for quite a while, or have you got a bunch of like stories in your back pocket that you haven't finessed yet? Like what's your process?
Yeah, so I definitely do have a lot of stories before my first published book that will never see the light of day, probably. I did do a lot of creative writing in classes in high school and college. So I kind of got the craft, at least the basics there. When I started more seriously wanting to write romance, I would say probably my first book that I published was probably the one that I kind of spent the most time on, just because I really wanted to make sure that it was good. Not that I don't want my others to be good, but it was such a learning curve. Like, I'm writing this with the intention of other people seeing it, and that was the first time I'd done that. But as far as my general process, I usually start with characters and the setting, and then as I get to know my characters, kind of the plot will come from there. But I really do enjoy starting from who and where, and then figuring out what happens. And I think that's part of why I lean towards the dark fantasy side of things, is because the setting really does play a big role, and I like that kind of stuff. For my first couple books, I definitely was more of a pantser, so like discovery writing. I didn't have a plot written out. I would say more recently, especially with my most recent book, which is Beyond Those Gilded Walls, I have started plotting a little bit more. I would say I still wouldn't say that I'm strict plotting things out, but I like to have like at least a general idea of where we're going now. It makes it take less time, I found.
Well, I'd imagine when you're like world building that having some sort of plot or something that like it must be helpful. Like you're not
Yeah.
like having to like misremember certain aspects or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think too, like getting the initial setting, and then the characters, the initial setting, then I'll rough out a plot, and then I'll go back and do the world building for like how I want it to tie in. You should see, I have spreadsheets on spreadsheets and like sticky notes and notebooks full of like world building stuff.
Nice. I love learning about the process because it's like I feel like everyone's different, but people have their sort of like the wall where you're putting some text into different spaces and
That's
trying
what I
to
feel like.
understand.
I have it in a spreadsheet.
Organized. You use mythology and folklore as inspiration in your writing as well. So I wonder if you could talk about what draws you to this, and maybe an impossible question, but do you have a favorite myth that you like to use?
Oh, no, I don't. Don't make me. I will say I really like Celtic mythology, so we'll give you at least a region of favorite myth. But in school, I took a couple mythology classes as electives, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And that's kind of where that spun into my influencing my writing. And I think a lot of it is like the stories are familiar no matter how they're written, so people will resonate with them. And it's always fun to see something that, even if you're not exactly familiar with the original myth, you know something of it, so you have these kind of expectations, and then it's fun getting to twist them.
What's been like, as I'm curious now about Celtic mythology, is there anyone that jumps out at you?
Yes. So if anyone's read the Sirens Mutiny, the sea goddess that I have in there is Clina. And so she's goddess of the seas, goddess of the sirens. But in Celtic mythology, she's goddess of the fairies or banshees, depending on which one you read. And so I always thought that was really interesting. So I kind of pulled her in, and when I read her myth, and was like, she would make a perfect siren queen. Even though that's not her original myth, just that character type fit really well. So kind of like that's what I'll pick out from mythology and stuff. And hers really stuck with me.
Nice. And it's kind of like you have a starting point for your character building as well. And like it's fiction, so you can kind of do whatever you want with this myth.
Exactly. And that's a lot of like on the folklore side. My book Hollowed is a Sleepy Hollow reimagining. I don't call it a retelling because I really just take the characters out and then just spin it. But that was always the fun part, is like, okay, I have this basis for these characters, but I want them to do something totally different. And so now that I know that I want them to do something different, I can start like, and I have this little character interview process that I go through when I start it's just like what's your favorite color? What's your Myers-Briggs type? What's your zodiac sign? Like really simple stuff, but it helps me get to know them more. And then they can start telling me kind of how it informs the plot from there. But I do think having a place to start from makes it easier and more interesting for me to see, like, how can I take these recognizable characters and flip them on their head.
I love that idea. That must be in your spreadsheet, the character
Yes.
interviews. Do you do it for like how deep do you go with like little minor characters? Do you ask them about their rising signs, their moon? Like that person's like a Cancer moon for sure.
Well, I at least do a smaller version of it for the minor characters. If they start getting like lots of interaction, then I'll usually go back and do a more detailed one. But typically it's for my main characters and like my antagonists.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And we've talked about this little spreadsheet a bit, but how do you approach world building in general to like create an immersive setting? So more on the craft side, like how do you balance creating a world that's both magical but also grounded?
I think the big thing is it needs to make sense. So you've got to think, okay, I have a river going through here. Do people live on the river? Does it flood a lot? Where is it water that's safe to drink? Do they have a farm off to the side of it? Like, it's got to make logical sense to me. So I usually will start with like the vibes. And so I'll build like a Pinterest board of like what I want it to look like. And then I'll go into like, okay, what's the government, religion, art? Where do they live? What do they dress? What do they eat? And kind of like go from there. And a lot of it never makes it into the book, but it helps me ground my story in somewhere that makes sense.
Do you share the Pinterest board with your readers?
I do, yes.
Nice.
They're,
And how?
they're
Sorry.
linked. So, oh no, sorry. I was just saying, if anyone wants to look at them, they're linked on my book information pages on my website.
Fun. And how do you balance like? I think it must be so fun to create a world from scratch, but how do you not get caught in the world building? Like, how do you balance like not spending a month building a world without actually writing the story? Is that difficult?
It's very difficult for me because I really do get bogged down in the details sometimes, and I have to pull myself back and be like, okay, this is cool, but we aren't going to write a book about how the farm system works in this kingdom where we're not even going to see a farm. We don't need to go that far. And that's where I think like having at least a rough idea of the plot before I go that deep really helps. So it keeps me kind of focused on things. It also does give me a lot of ideas for bonus content, I will say, because then like I can explore other parts of the world in bonus content that people will think is interesting because I've obviously done a lot of research into it. So I can make it that interesting. But I definitely say it's difficult, and I do have to pull myself back. And I have a really, really good editors that I've worked with that are like, you're doing too much. Take some of this out.
And how do you use your bonus content? Like, so where can, like, if a reader really wants to learn about the farming rules of that specific area, like where can they, how do you do that? Like your newsletters, it's sort of like in between novellas.
Yeah, so I have a page on my website for bonus content. Right now it's all bonus scenes. So different scenes that I either deleted or thought about writing in a different point of view and ended up publishing the other version. But so yeah, I do have a bonus content page on my website, and then I'll send it out to my newsletter as well once they come out.
Nice.
I am working on one that is so for Beyond Those Gilded Walls, which is my most recent. That was probably my biggest world building exercise that I've ever done. So I am working on putting together a world guide for it because I am planning at some point to write more books in the world because I just really enjoyed how I set it up a lot, and I think it lends to a lot of things to explore.
Do you ever write kind of bonus content or additional things that readers ask for that you hadn't really thought of?
Yes. So I have a couple times, especially for like alternate point of view scenes. So my last two books, Hollowed and Beyond Those Gilded Walls, were just in single point of view. So pretty much any chapter can be switched to an alternate point of view. So I have gotten quite a few requests for certain chapters. So that's typically what I'll at least go for, at least for something. I want to do what people want to read. So
Yeah, it might be fun as well to just be like, I didn't even think about writing it from that perspective. So you've been writing for, I mean, a long time, forever since, and in my mind, your twin sister's called Elizabeth just because of Sweet Valley High, but
her name is Caitlin.
so close. But I was wondering, since you started kind of publishing, when did you say you started? 2020, 2020. Is there a piece of writing advice that you wish you knew then, or have you sort of stayed pretty consistent since then?
I wish I had at least kind of had a better idea of how to plot when I first started, because I think it was very intimidating at first. And I was like, I don't want it to be scripted like that. I want to be able to explore it. And I think there's so many different ways to plot that everyone can find something that works for them if they want to. That I just wish I had known, like, it's not a very strict prescriptive process. It can look however you need it to look. And I did kind of stumble my way into what works for me. But I do wish I had that information for my first one.
Nice. And how do you balance your writing with everything else that indie authors have to do? So maybe walk us through, like, what's a day in your author life look like?
So I actually work a full-time job still too, on top of being all my indie author stuff. So I work 8 to 5. So when I'm writing, I usually try to take some time off in between projects, just so I don't burn out. And I'm typically a slow writer, but one thing that I have learned about me is I have absolutely no creative energy after work, after my day job. So I will write in the morning before work, and then I will do all my admin and marketing stuff in the evenings or on the weekends. And that kind of system's finally got it down for me. But I'll usually take an hour or two before work, get up early, and we'll write before work.
So what's early? That must be very early.
Usually, like, I'll get up around 6.
Wow. I can't imagine, like, your brain working at 6 a.m. Maybe my brain doesn't work at that time.
Sometimes it's good because I'm not overthinking it. I'm just, whatever's in my head, I'm just writing out. And
yeah,
I need a lot of editing later, but it flows.
And it's the quietest part of day. You probably feel like you have the world to yourself at that point.
Yeah.
Both worlds, the one you're writing and the one you're actually in.
Yeah, because my husband doesn't get up for work that early, so it's really just me. And then I have a little treadmill under my desk, so we'll walk while I write too.
Oh my God.
So that gets in nicely. I found that really helps me focus. Actually, I was really hesitant about trying it at first. One of my friends recommended it to me, but I was really hesitant. I'm like, I'm gonna fall and break my neck trying to type and walk at the same time. But really, it actually does help me kind of focus more. So that's been really nice. But yeah, writing before work has been the best thing for my brain because I just have no energy after my day job. I work in the legal and regulatory compliance field. So it's very different. So all my creativity is kind of sapped by the end of the day and my energy. So that does lend itself well to doing emails and stuff. And then on the weekends, I'll usually do all my marketing and prep it for the week so I don't have to worry about anything that way.
Nice, but you're not getting a day off then. You're just kind of always
No,
working.
not really. No. I'm one of those people that I don't do downtime well.
I am not one of those people.
I wish I was not one of those people, but here we are.
How is your work in your day job? You don't have to go into that much detail, but has that lent into the business side of the indie stuff? Has that been helpful, having legal compliance? Does that give you a little bit of insights into more of the kind of, I don't know, technical or contracty part of this business?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is just the weird kind of regulations that the US especially is putting on small businesses, but also internationally. So most recently the EU put out the I don't remember what it stands for, but it's GPSR, but it's product safety and product safety regulations. And, there's no minimum on it. So if we indie authors sell, I have a direct shop that I sell signed copies from. If I have a customer who wants to buy a signed copy in the EU, I have to comply with that regulation, and it's a lot of work. And I actually became aware of that through my day job. So stuff like that. But I wouldn't say it gives me too much of an advantage. I just, if there ever are regulations that apply, I know how to read them. And I would say that that's the biggest benefit because, they always write them in for some reason, way too complicated legal language.
Right.
So I do know how to break that down to understand what it's actually requiring. But I wouldn't say beyond that, it gives me too much of an advantage.
Well, maybe you can be a helpful resource to other authors too, of just not giving legal advice, but here's my interpretation of what this says.
For sure.
So when authors start to publish, they often have to decide whether they want to publish widely everywhere or if they want to focus on sort of one specific place. And publishing widely is a significant strategy for many. So I'm just curious if you can talk about what this means to you and why you've chosen this approach for your books.
Yes. So initially, like you said, we talked about earlier, libraries were a huge thing for my childhood. So my goal was always, I want my books in libraries out of the gate. So part of my research was, how can I do that? And, my library didn't have a lot of physical books. So I was like, okay, well, ebooks are picking up now in libraries more because I have a library card, and that's pretty much how I read all of my books. And so I was like, okay, well, what can I do to get my ebook in libraries? And at the time, this has changed in the last like month and a half, but at the time, you could, if you wanted to be in libraries with your ebooks, you had to be wide. So that was kind of like a no-brainer choice for me out of the gate, along with like, and I told you this earlier, but I have really bad anxiety. And the idea of having all of my money tied up in one place just makes me very anxious. And so that was kind of the other big point, was like, let's spread this out a little bit and just see what happens. But libraries was always the biggest choice for me. And then now with the recent changes, you can still be in that exclusive for Amazon, but also in libraries. I'm still not going to change my approach because I really enjoy being able to be on all the platforms and do pretty much whatever I want with my ebook. I don't like restrictions, make me uncomfortable. So I like being able to do whatever I would like to with my ebooks, and I think that will always be the case for me. But again, I think a lot of it is like, you have to figure out what works for you and what your individual goals are, which is why there's always so much debate about which path is best. Well, there's never going to be a best. It's what works for you in your individual situation.
It's also fluid. Like
Yeah.
you can like change and choose different things, so it doesn't have to be a forever thing too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people try to put rules in place that don't exist. Like, okay, well, I want to try out wide. Okay, take a series wide. You don't have to do everything. Take one book.
Great.
Yeah.
And if authors are looking to maybe take a series or one book widely, what do you think are some of the common like misconceptions or challenges that they might face? And do you have any advice for maybe overcoming them?
I would say the biggest thing that I've heard from people who want to go wide but have been hesitant is like, you have a lot more platforms to manage. So it's a lot more admin work. And so it's a lot more time. So I would say, if you're wanting to experiment, maybe pick one or two platforms to go direct to. Like Kobo makes it really easy to go direct. Apple does not. So if you're going to pick one, I would do something like Kobo, where you can go direct very easily. If you want to use an aggregator like Draft2 Digital, that is also really easy in less time, but you get a little bit less control. So it's kind of, you have to figure out what you want, what your priorities are again. But I would definitely say, like, talk to authors who are on the platforms you are considering being on and get their opinions. Because like, I personally, Apple's too much work for me. I will always get to Apple through Draft2 Digital because I know I don't have the patience. And I know that about myself. So I think figuring out what your goals are and then talking to people who are already doing what you want to be doing.
I think that's great advice. I always tell authors as well that in prep for becoming comfortable with publishing widely is like, create the accounts and like have a look around first, like see what's available. I think it probably is overwhelming if you're, I don't know, you've put one day aside to publish your books widely and it's the first time you've ever looked at anything. I can see how that could be discouraging. So I would create the accounts, let them sit there. I mean, we have like the tools that are available that I like to call our worst kept secrets, but like our promotions tab or publishing audiobooks, you have to ask the team for access. So doing a little bit of research on like the stuff that's available, but at least just creating the account and having it ready, having all your details there. So then in a month when you want to publish, it's not a nightmare.
Yeah. And another thing that I was recommended that I think is just best practice in general is another spreadsheet, of course, but like having your title, your subtitle, your blurb, what categories you want it to be in, just having all of that ready. So because when you're only on one platform, you don't need to save that anywhere else. You have it where it needs to be. But I think that's a really easy way to set yourself up for not having to flounder and figure out where's my blurb? I got to figure out where I got to go copy and paste it. So just having it all in one place, I think, makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah, that's super smart as well. And then it guarantees you that because I know like the category options are not, it's not everyone using like bias codes.
Yeah.
So at least you can kind of try and attempt to have the
Yeah,
closest categories as possible. Like,
exactly. You can at least try.
mhm.
And then I think one of the biggest things that is different across the platforms is what other currencies it's available in. And how you, so figuring out how you're going to translate the currencies. Are you going to make it all pretty with like ending in 99, or are you just going to do straight conversion, which I don't recommend, but
Me
you know,
neither.
but like, so having that in the spreadsheet too. So they, okay, I'm doing rounding to 99 on Kobo. Well, now I need to make sure I remember to do that on Draft2 Digital as well and Google Play as well for those same currencies. So it's all the same. So I think the more spreadsheet savvy you can be, the easier wide is going to be to manage, in my opinion. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay too. I encourage it because, you know, I like being one of my biggest, I guess, pet peeves is people who say that wide is not accessible. I think it's very accessible. I think your individual circumstances are going to be the biggest contributing factor, but it's not like it's hidden information.
It does that it not being accessible, is that in terms of like financially for readers? Like,
I think both a little bit. And I think,
I always didn't think that the library is such a kind of beautiful counter to that, right? That you're like, my
yeah,
books are here, and then there's also like Kobo Plus that's available in as a different alternative as well. But yeah, so if it's kind of a means, and I guess that sort of means that maybe readers have to have both, but there are kind of ways to maybe engage with those readers.
yeah, and I think too, there's a lot of misconceptions still about how libraries work with ebooks. Like, just because I've published it, you still have to ask your library to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, libraries are very willing to take patron suggestions. Like, my grandmother, God love her, has requested all of my books at our library, and they've gotten them all. But like, you just, so when you have authors that are not in Kindle Unlimited and you have a library, again, this is budget dependent for your library, so like obviously caveats there, but for the most part, I've never really seen a library that's not willing to accept patron suggestions or requests. So you just have to ask. Like, if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no.
I think the last time we chatted with Overdrive, it's about because you can distribute to Overdrive through Kobo Writing Life, and they have the option of buying the higher priced point for the library book, where they can kind of have that one book to loan out multiple times, or there's the option where they can buy a book for a one-time loan at the 10% price, which I think is really helpful for requesting books like this, especially if the library is not as familiar. But I think the last time I talked to them, it's about 20% of our sales are from they're demand driven is what they call it. So that's people coming and asking for the books, which I think is so encouraging. And also if that means that a librarian is going to be recommending your book, you're golden. Like they are like the most trusted book recommenders ever.
And I think too, like, especially when it comes to budget times, like, if they see that people are requesting ebooks more, they're going to budget more towards getting more ebooks. So like, if you've got a library, use it. And a lot of libraries now are doing you don't even have to live there to get a library card there. So like, I know some people who have like 3 or 4 different library cards so they can access different catalogs, and a lot of them do it for free. A couple of them I know are paid, but it's like $10 a year. So it's like, if you have that means, you can look for other library cards too. But I love the library, so I'll always be a supporter of the library.
Same. And our Kobo devices still have library like Overdrive integration in them. So you just enter your library card and you can kind of start browsing and reading directly on the account on your device, which is always it's always super cool to see that too.
I have tried to get into e-readers. I had a Nook when they first came out, and I have a Kobo device, and I have a Kindle too. And I always end up reading on my phone. So I never use any of them.
I can't read on my phone because I prefer the look of the e-ink. Like,
my husband does too, so he's the one who uses them all.
Oh.
I get them and I'm like, I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna do, and I never do.
Yeah, it's all preference. It's like also like I like hardcover books too, right? Some people hate them, so it's like
I'm a hardcover girl too. So.
So I'm just, as we're kind of talking about the readers there, and you're saying about readers maybe saying that something's not as accessible if it's wide. But just curious, because you're quite open about your publishing strategies, do you find that readers are more responsive to even the concept of wide versus like exclusive? Because there seems to be like much more interest in indie authors right now than
Yeah.
I noticed 8 or 10 years ago.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think especially lately, readers are much more apt to be willing to go to a different platform to find an author. And I think even if they're staying on Amazon, they're more willing to buy instead of waiting for it to be in Kindle Unlimited too. So I think there's definitely a much more, I want to say flexibility, but that's not quite the right word, of being willing to go where the authors are, especially the authors you want to read. But I do think a big part of that is like, we've got to get them in somehow. And the economy's in the toilet right now. So people just don't have money to buy books. And so that's, again, where libraries, I think, are a big, big portion of it. And so getting that information out there helps a ton that I've seen. Like, oh, I didn't even know I could request a book from my library. Now you can hear step by step. So I think a lot of it is the more we educate, the more willing people are going to be to do it, because they don't know what they don't know. If they don't know how to do it, they don't know that they can, you know? But I definitely think indie authors and off Amazon purchases and reads are definitely getting more traction, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, we've definitely at Kobo seen a sort of surge in what I kind of call like a little bit more thoughtful consumption, like where people are, like you said, maybe don't have as much money to sort of spend. So they're kind of being a little bit more thoughtful with where they're spending their money. So it's nice to see that somebody is sort of making a connection with you as an author and wanting to support you.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the big, like, to have a loyal readership, I think you have to be not, and I don't want to say you have to be like an accessible author, like on social media constantly, but they have to see you as a human. Otherwise, there's just going to be a product. And I think that once they see you as a human and they form that connection with you, they're more willing to follow you to different platforms.
Well, let's talk about kind of like the social and the marketing of it all a little bit. Well, how did you manage to start building that connection with your readers?
Oh, I'm mostly on Instagram. So it's pretty much been entirely Instagram. I was on TikTok for a little bit, and I love TikTok to doom scroll, but I hate making content for it. So I would say primarily Instagram has been my main kind of where I connect with readers. I'm a very visual person, and I tend to do very well with like building aesthetic kind of posts that readers typically respond pretty well to. So I don't want to say like I got all of my following from when I was doing Bookstagram, because I had like 200 followers when I published. So like it definitely was not helping me in any kind of way. But I do think like being in the Bookstagram community first helped me figure out what works well and what doesn't work as well there, because they're very much, it is a community. So like you can't just throw your book up on an Instagram post and say, buy my book. Cool, here it is. Like you've got to engage with people. So I think that a lot of people see social media as like, I've got to be on everything all at once and do it all the time. And that's not the case. Like pick one and just do it really well. Like I hate TikTok. I don't think I posted on TikTok in like 3 months. But I post every day on Instagram, or try to every day on Instagram. And that's what I enjoy. So that's what I do.
Vanessa's added in the chat here. Hold on, let me pull it up. That she found your books from TikTok, so it worked for Vanessa. Even though that's not your primary mode or primary space to be advertising.
Yeah, no, TikTok videos I'm not good at, so it takes me a lot longer to do than like images. So it's always like balancing time and effort for me, because I have my full-time job. I only have a little bit of time to really commit to some stuff. So videos were taking me like 3 times as long to make. I could make like 3 weeks worth of posts when it took me to make 2 videos. So I definitely have fallen off on my TikTok quite a bit, but I'm glad someone found me from TikTok.
And you're posting on Instagram every day. Can you give us an example of what sorts of things that you're posting? Do you have a strategy around like specific content, or is it just trying to be on there?
I do not have a strategy. I need a strategy. It would make things a lot easier, but I do not. So trope maps, like the books with the little arrows and like what's inside. I think that is good, but I think that a lot of it is just like they don't want to know the generic enemies to lovers. Like, tell me that she's a bloodthirsty siren and he's a pirate who's hunting his dad. Tell me that's what's inside. So I think those little maps and character art always does really well. So I usually try to reuse that as much as possible, get my money's worth for my character art. And then quotes, any kind of hooky quotes that will pull people in. I typically try to spice it up. So I have 4 books out. So I'll usually try to rotate so it's not all one thing all the time. So I try to advertise all of them. Right now I'm going heavy on Hollowed and Beyond Those Gilded Walls because those are perfect spooky season books. And in the summer I hit my mermaids really hard. So it just kind of depends on what the time is and what people are kind of reading, what I'll focus on. But try to do a lot of quotes, what's inside, what you can expect, kind of stuff.
Do you do any paid advertising?
No, I have not figured that out yet. I would like to. I'm actually going to do a Facebook ads course in a couple weeks because I think I've kind of figured out the rest of my marketing. So I'm ready to branch out. So that's really never really done paid marketing. I have worked for like book tours, like virtual book tours. Those have done really well at launch for me. But that's more just kind of like an awareness thing than what I would consider like paid ads and stuff. So that's my next adventure.
So Facebook ads course is interesting. So are you also posting on Facebook then as well? Are you linking them together?
Post. Yeah, it posts with my Instagram posts.
Yeah. It seems to be like still a very like a place that people are still hanging out at, or like readers specifically,
so
like especially in groups and things.
Yeah, it's very weird to me how steady Facebook ads have been for finding books and for doing well with increasing book sales too. It's so weird to me because like no one that I know personally is on Facebook other than to run ads. Like we don't interact on there. So it's just weird to me. But yeah, so that's my next one because it still is working for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's obviously strategies behind it that go way over my head at this point, but some people do really well with them. So I'm excited to learn that and go from there.
So how did you manage sort of like it sounds like you maybe had a social first strategy, or did you know to then sort of move that to build your newsletter up, or like what was your thinking in the order of things there?
Yeah, so it was definitely social first. I still struggle with my newsletter. I have it and I send it out regularly, but I'm always like, who's going to want to hear? What do I have to say? I don't have anything to say.
But you're posting every day, so you have something to say. Come on.
And that's what I always get. Like when I complain about it to my friends, they're like, "You have plenty of content. Just pick something. Talk about your cat, for God's sake. Put the book with the cat and take a picture of her." And so I think like we have to remember that even if you really, really like doing social only, there are still people who are on Facebook. So there are some people who are going to just want to read your newsletter and they don't want to be on social media. So I say, even if you're not sending it out regularly, a newsletter is really, really smart to have and to start. I don't send mine out regularly. I try to do at least once a month. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I would say like it's a really good place to make sure that people who want to hear about you are going to hear about you, especially with how the algorithms always change on like Instagram and TikTok. I mean, I had someone who like a couple months ago just emailed me and they didn't know that my recent book had come out, and it came out in 2024.
Oh, wow.
And like they just hadn't seen any of my posts since then.
It is wild how it suppresses some stuff now as well. Like, yeah.
And so I definitely think like, even if you don't want to send anything out with it yet, just start a newsletter, get a sign-up form going, put it in the back of your books, maybe some bonus content. Hey, you want bonus content? Sign up for my newsletter. That's typically how I approach that. For as far as that's where most of my subscriptions or signups for my newsletter come from, is from bonus content. So
Nice. But you have a great author website, and it's very like,
thank you.
very cohesive. There's nice little sections, and like it tells a lot about who you are at a glance. So I was wondering if you could chat about like any advice you have for other authors creating their author brand and wanting to make sure that it feels authentic.
Yes, so that's actually something. Well, the website is just like a hobby of mine. When I don't feel like doing anything, I'll just sit and play with my website. One of my friends, Maddox, does that as well. So we'll message each other and like we're messing with the websites again. But I definitely do really like my brand. I recently refined it a little bit more to feel like more me. I think what a lot of authors kind of get caught in is trying to make their brand fit their books, like matching the book covers and that kind of thing, but it needs to be you as a person. And I think that's where a lot of authors early on may not get the feeling, because like for a long time I did it. My branding was teal and red, and it matched my cover of my Sirens books. But I love pink. Like I have a blanket right now. Everything in my office is pink. So like it didn't make sense to keep that being my author brand. That's my books brand, but my author brand is supposed to be about me. So I think just figuring out what you want to communicate as a person. So like I knew I wanted pink, but my stuff's really dark for the most part. Like not the romance, but like the environment and the settings and what's happening is really dark. So like I don't want it to be like all pastel pink and stuff, and then because that's not gonna be what readers are expecting when they read me. So okay, let's throw some black in there. Sounds good. So I think a lot of it is just figuring out what you want readers to expect from you and what colors convey that and what that kind of communicates to you. And it's more than just colors. It's like the fonts and stuff, but that's a whole other, like, you need to take a marketing class for that. But yeah, so I would definitely say like, and you don't have, if anyone looks at my website, please, you do not have to get that complicated. I've been building my website since I started, and I just keep building onto it. I know plenty of people who have a one-page website and it works perfect. So I definitely don't want anyone to see my website and think like, oh God, I've got to figure out how to build that. You definitely do not. But I have a lot of fun with my branding. Like I said, I'm a very visual person, so that's always been something that appeals to me to work on, which I know is not the case for a lot of people they like to write. They like words. They don't like pictures. They don't do that kind of. I like visual stuff. So I like building aesthetics and making things look pretty.
I think that's wonderful advice about separating your author brand from your book brand, because that can be quite difficult at the beginning. And
Very.
potentially not without, but when you're starting out, you may not have the confidence that you have once you have a little bit of an established readership as well to be really able to pin your specific author brand. What's your like elevator pitch for what's your tagline?
Oh, my little tagline is so cute. So I actually worked with someone, Sam's Creative Cure, to build my most recent branding because I wanted some cute little illustrations. And she helped me come up with a new one. And because it was terrible before, I'm not even going to say what it was before, but it's now Romance in the Darkness.
Oh,
So we played around with it for a couple times, and we went going back and forth between romance through the darkness or romance in the darkness, and we settled on romance in the darkness. And I think the pinks and the dark reds and all, it really fits it. It's spooky, but it's romantic and it's cute. And I think it really fits kind of what you can expect to get in any of my books, regardless of what else is happening in them. And I definitely think, going back to what you said, it's hard to pinpoint that when you only have one book out or when you only have two. And so I definitely would say, like, don't feel like you have to have your author brand established out of the gate. And even if you do establish one out of the gate, don't feel like you can't change it. There's no rules here. You can do whatever you want. You can change it whenever you want.
yeah, because I'm sure your voice slightly changes as well, unless you're prolific and you've got your author voice down from book
No.
one. But as you're learning, your voice will change a little bit too, so your brand will adapt.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing is, like, don't be afraid of growing. Even if you, like, I think that's a big thing in anything you're doing. But like, your books are going to evolve. You're going to evolve. You can't just stay where you're at because it's comfortable. You can't be afraid of growing and changing things and trying something new. You can always change it back if you don't like it later.
And that's what we all love about this business so much. Like indie publishing does change so quickly, which can also be the overwhelming piece. But I think if you come to it with, if you come to things with curiosity, it makes it a little bit less overwhelming. And
For sure.
Learning and realizing that you don't have to learn all the things, but you have to learn a couple of things to help your business.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is learning how to ask questions and what questions to ask.
You mentioned the Wide for the Win Facebook group. Were there any other resources that you found sort of really helpful at the, I was going to say at the beginning, but even now, any resources that you recommend?
It was definitely that one. Now I would say, I don't know what the actual title of it is, but it's Tiana Taylor's, I think it's 7-Figure Fiction maybe, but it's, it goes into like universal fantasies and kind of, it helps you figure out how to market your book. And not really by telling you, okay, these are the tropes you need to put in it, but it helps you figure out how to look at your book and pull out the tropes that are going to resonate with readers so that you can use those in your marketing. And that was really, really helpful for me to figure out like, oh, this is why people like this scene because it's hitting on this specific thing. So I think that I've recently gotten really into Kickstarters and researching that. So there's a book by Anthea Sharp called Kickstarter for Authors. It's very creative, but it's been really helpful as far as like, because I just finished my first Kickstarter and it went really well.
How did it go? Yeah, I was going to ask.
It went really well, but we're doing a special edition for Hollowed. That was what the project is. So that's been what I've been super deep in researching lately. Has been Kickstarter because that's a whole different beast than even any of the platforms. It's just totally different. So a lot of stuff that works on other platforms and stuff doesn't work on Kickstarter. But for the most part, Wide for the Win has a ton of resources, and even if it's not exactly what you need, you can at least figure out what direction to go in with other research off Facebook. Unfortunately, it is on Facebook. They also have it on Circle. I never got onto that part of it. If I'm going to have Facebook, I'm just going to use that, So I would say like there's a lot of Facebook groups out there still, more than you would think. And then another resource is there's Pharaoh Society. So it's Fantasy Romance Society. It's just kind of like an author group, but they have a Discord channel you can join. And tons of knowledge in there. And I've learned so much from the people in there too.
Nice. And you connected with other authors and kind of started learning from them as well?
Yes. One of the big ones that I've learned a lot from in terms of like direct sales is Maddox Gray. They are fantastic. They are also the one that also messes with their website a ton, but Maddox is fantastic. There's so many others. I'm forgetting everyone I've ever known now. But there's just a lot of people. I think for the most part, you'll be hard pressed to find an author, especially an indie author, who's not willing to help you or answer your questions. If you come about it in a polite way, like don't just slide into someone's DM and say, help me, like it has to be in it. The more specific you can phrase your question, I think the more likely you're going to get an answer to. Like if someone just comes to me and says, hey, how do I publish? I'm going to tell you to go to Google and come back with a more specific question, I won't say it like that though, but I think kind of that figuring out who is doing what you want to be doing and what specific aspect of it do you think they can help you with versus looking at the wall. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask if it helps if you're a fan too. I'm sure you're probably reading the books of the people that you're chatting to as well.
We just moved into this house and I have brand new bookshelves because ours got destroyed in the move. Unfortunately, they were like $10, so they weren't very sturdy anyway.
Just an excuse. You're like, oh no, they're destroyed. I get to buy all new bookshelves.
I know, but I have like 3 bookshelves and it's all just my friends' books.
Oh,
and I love it so much. So yeah, I definitely think that helps. I mean, it's not an expectation, but I definitely think that it helps when you can come as a genuine, like, I really love what you're doing, especially this specific part of this specific book's marketing. How can I ask you a question about it? And I think they're always more willing when you come from a place of being genuine versus how can I ask you questions to get ahead. It's more of how can I build community with you and learn from you.
No, I think that's great. So as we are deep in spooky season, just wondering what your favorite scary stories are, whether it's a book or a film or anything.
Oh, so every spooky season, I usually will start in September rewatching Supernatural. And then the movie Van Helsing is one of my favorites too. And it's so cheesy and I love it so much.
Nice,
But
nice.
those are my two, like every year in September, I'll start watching Supernatural and then I will watch Van Helsing.
Van Helsing is the Sleepy Hollow-ish as well, right? Like,
It's kind of like a monster mashup.
mm,
So it's older. I want to say it's like 2004, but it's like kind of a nod to all the B grade horror movies. So there's like Dracula, there's werewolves, there is Frankenstein. There's
mhm.
like all the monsters are in it, and it's fantastic.
Are you interested in the new Del Toro Frankenstein? Looks
I am.
intense.
It looks interesting.
I see. I'm such a wimp. Yes, Vanessa's calling me out. No, of course I've never seen Van Helsing because
You
I don't.
should. It's good. It's got Hugh Jackman in it.
I'm a real wimp when it comes to like horror things, but I am
It's
starting
not
to
very
dip
scary.
my toe into some like 80s stuff. I watched Chud for the first time last weekend. That was excellent. So that's
Well,
been
Van
like my
Helsing
heart.
is good because it's not super scary.
Okay. All
But
right.
it's got Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale in it, so you're in for a good time.
Nice. Okay. I'll put it on after the Jays win everything tomorrow.
I love it.
Now that I've said it out loud, it will happen. So thanks so much for chatting today. It's been super fun, and I'm
Oh,
wondering if you can tell viewers where they can find you online.
yeah, so Instagram, it's at author Jessica S. Taylor. My website is the same. I am primarily on Instagram, so I would recommend following there because I don't really do much anywhere else. But yeah, all the information's on my website as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been really lovely, and thanks for everyone for tuning in as well.
Thank you so much. You all have a good day.
All right. Bye.